Hello, today is the 17th of May, and this is a strangely significant day because 100 years ago today, in 1920, Frank Matcham died on the 17th of May. Frank Matcham, for many years he was an overlooked genius. He built about 150 odd theatres and places of entertainment, 25 of our best theatres are still in use today. They range from the tiny Theatre Royal in Wakefield, which has got about 500 seats, to the enormous London Coliseum, which is now the home of the English National Opera. And that's 2,500 seats. It was built as a technological marvel. It was built for the music hall. I'm making some films about the music hall, and so Frank Matcham is a man I very much admire. He worked with Oswald Stoll and Moss, the Stoll-Moss Empire, who commissioned so many of these theatres, particularly the Coliseum, the Hackney Empire, and Stoll is there, and Matcham is there, and but Matcham was never seen as a gentleman. He was sort of interloper. He wasn't accepted among architects. In fact, it wasn't until the early 1990s that he even made it into the Dictionary of National Biography. He was. There's this fascinating little letter that came to me a few years ago. I put it up here. This is the letter. It's really quite rude, and it didn't. Maybe he was a bit bluff. He didn't seem to suffer fools, and he knew that he was good at what he did. He was up to date in all the latest technological advances. Electricity everywhere, embellishments like you cannot imagine. You only have to walk into the Hackney Empire to see how Matcham manages to fuse everything, the Indian, the Egyptian, the classical, his theatres are an entertainment in themselves. All the way from we don't really use the London Hippodrome now as it was intended. It was built as a circus, but there was a centre of it which could be flooded, like the Roman Colosseum, I suppose. But a huge water tank could be used for aquatic spectacles. Esther Williams, eat your heart out in the early part of the 19th century, in the early part of the 20th century, and as innovations go, the Colosseum. The London Coliseum, until I think the National Theatre was built, still had the best fly gallery, the best system for introducing scenery of any theatre in London. It's still pretty unrivaled today. But other innovations there. It had a triple revolve on the stage, which I think was never used. And at one point, it had a mobile bar, and when the theatre was being opened by Edward VII, by the King, the mobile bar malfunctioned and so was never used again. But this didn't stop Matcham innovating and making sure that the theatres he was building would be the best, would be up to date, would be perfect, and more than that, he was famously very quick. He often had sort of 8 theatres being built at the same time. He was hands-on, he was quick, he was innovative, he was a man of his day, but he's the sort of man that we need today to turn round turn around our industry, to make sure that our theatres will be open as soon as possible and will be COVID friendly. We will find innovations to make sure we can get back into the theatre. What we need today is a new Frank Matcham. So look, just for a few minutes today, let's think about him before we go to bed. Anyway, thank you very much.